You are looking live.
Here comes the play. Goodman at the free throw line. Jumper.
He broke his ankles. He is Houdini.
Mickey Mantle don't care about you, so why should you care about him? Nobody cares.
That's not a good call. No.
You don't like that call.
I don't like that call.
Woo, 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 woo. Not so fast.
Maryland basketball played Michigan State last night. Michigan State was ranked 13th in the country going into the game last night. Maryland has, I mentioned this last week. They have had a less than stellar season, to say the least. And, for those that don't know why, the coach left 8 games into the season, and chemistry has kind of been off all season, I guess you should say. And it's just been an off year. We'll just put it that way. So they played Michigan State last night, and I don't know anybody that thought that was going to be a close game going into the game, just because Michigan State, how good they have been, and just how good they've always been, right? They're always a team that has been, good, right? No matter what the year was, no matter, what players they had, Tom Izzo just coaches them up real good, especially towards the end of the season. So Maryland has obviously been having some struggles, as mentioned, but last night they kept it close. Michigan State won on a, game-winning basket with 1.9 seconds to go from Malik Hall to give the Spartans the 65-63 win. And there were a lot of areas in that game that you can look back on and say Maryland should have won the game here or there. But one of them that I'm sure students, I'm sure diehard Maryland fans are going to look at is the officiating, because, Maryland fans are used to the ACC, where every time we played Duke or North Carolina, the officiating just didn't really go the Terps' way. So that has kind of transitioned over to the Big Ten when Maryland plays Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State and other big dogs in the Big Ten. The officiating doesn't usually go the way that Maryland fans really want it to, and last night was another continuation of that, for sure. And again, I don't want to put too much emphasis on officiating, because there are always a million reasons why a team loses a game, right? You can look at the defense could have made a stop here or there. Shot selection could have been better at certain points of the game. Turnovers, making foul shots, all of which applied to last night's loss for Maryland, right? However, there is still an avenue in which that the officiating is definitely, an area to blame. Let's just start here. For starters, the last minute of the game seemed to take 3 hours. I think they got a baseball game in the amount of time that the last minute of regulation, occurred. That was ridiculous. I mean, every play they were going to the monitor and taking a prolonged look at it. I thought they were looking at the Domino's menu and ordering pizza or something, deciding which toppings they wanted. It was ridiculous. And another thing about the officiating, I've talked about this in the NFL before, but I always chuckle when they go over to review something and they're looking at it on this small monitor, right? They're looking at it on this thing that's like the size of a Nintendo DS, when, especially in basketball arenas, because football not so much, not necessarily above your head, but in basketball arenas, especially Xfinity Center, right above your head is one of the bigger jumbotrons, in sports. That always amazes me, right? In the NFL, we know the deal there. They, especially at AT&T Stadium at Jerry World, the biggest jumbotron on the planet, and they're looking at this little iPod Touch to review the play. Never understood that. That always baffles me. But maybe that's why it takes so long, right? Maybe that's why the reviews take so long, because they're looking at it on the smallest screen known to mankind. I don't know. Really weird. But so there were at least 3 reviews late in the game that took way longer than they should have. And after taking a prolonged look at it, they still got the call wrong many times. There were a few times where it was who touched the ball last, and it was pretty evident on the review, at least over television, that it looked like, Michigan State hit it out of bounds or Maryland hit it out of bounds last, and then they come out and they say the other way, right? And even the announcers were like, well, I think they missed that one. So that was one area of disappointment. Dante Scott, there was this it was, I don't exactly remember when it was, but it was late in the game, last minute or so. Dante Scott, Maryland was on offense, and Dante Scott was in position to go get a rebound, and he didn't just get pushed, but he got shoved. I mean, I'm surprised there wasn't an indent in the floor, in the court of his body for how hard he got pushed down, and there was no call whatsoever. So that was kind of odd. And then there were countless times that Tom Izzo went ballistic at the officials for really sometimes no reason, sometimes it was warranted, but I don't know. I've seen coaches get a technical foul for a lot less than what Tom Izzo was doing last night, and there were plenty of times where I was waiting for a technical foul to be called on Tom Izzo, and, well, that never really happened. And I just know that when the shoe was on the other foot, right, in previous years when it's been a long time ago, Gary Williams, or in recent years, Mark Turgeon, if they acted that way, they would, without a doubt, be getting a technical foul. But when it's, Coach K or Tom Izzo or Coach Cal Perry from Kentucky, those technical fouls don't get called, which is, for college basketball fans, you kind of expect that. Maryland fans are kind of accustomed to that, but it was still one of those things that, hey, you got to call a technical foul there. On the positive note, as I mentioned, they played a really good game. Maryland did last night. Well, both teams did. Obviously, Michigan State gets the win, but Maryland played pretty well for where they were coming into the season, or coming into the game, right? A sub 500 team, probably not going to be making any postseason tournaments other than the Big Ten tournament, which everybody goes to. And they took a top 15 team and took them down to the wire, which was, sure, they didn't win, but it was encouraging to see that regardless. Fats Russell was hitting some jump shots. That is something that he has clearly struggled with this season, is hitting his jumpers. He was hitting some of them last night. He hit a couple clutch threes. That was good to see. Qudus Wahab got some rebounds, and he got some points as well last night. That was, good to see. I wouldn't exactly say he was the player of the game by any means, but compared to some of the stinkers he's thrown out there in games prior, I thought he played better than, before. I think everybody played better than the Indiana game. And if Maryland played that way against Indiana on Saturday, without a doubt they would have won that game. Without a doubt they would have, been going into this game with a little more momentum. And maybe that's why they came out and played so good against Michigan State. They laid, to say it was a stinker would be the biggest understatement of all time. They played probably one of their worst games of all time against Indiana on Saturday. And maybe that kind of motivated Maryland a little bit. Maybe maybe they went back after that game and said, hey, we got to get our head out of our rear end here and figure this out. And, because they're better than this, right? It wasn't one of those games where you just say, we just got beat by a good team, right? They're better than this. They've shown that they're better than this in their wins against Northwestern and Rutgers and other teams as of late. They've shown that they can hang with these teams. They showed it again last night. So the Indiana game is just one that you look back on, and you can't look at it with anything else other than just complete and utter disappointment. Late in the game, I questioned the decision to have freshman Julian Reese in the game late when it was tied up, like the last 10 seconds of the game I'm talking here. And I understand that Julian Reese has size, right? And he is a good defender. I get that. But the reason that I was confused about that is because he is a freshman. He is young. He is inexperienced. He has not yet, gone up against a top 15 team when the game was, not just the fact that it was a top 15 team, but the aspect that this Michigan State team, just like any year, has is a team that is threatening to make a long run in March. That's kind of what I'm getting at. They're just one of the more complete teams in college basketball right now. Having your freshman out there when the game is on the line, I question that decision from the aspect of going out to win the game, but I also understand that from the aspect that you say, well, the kid's got to learn somehow, right? The kid's, okay, I get that. All right, I can see both sides of that. However, in that moment, for me, I'm just a competitor. I like to go out and win the game, right? I understand that you got to give those guys experience. You got to let those guys learn somehow. They're going to have to learn those lessons one way or another, whether it is losing a game on defense or to their fault or not. I understand that side of it, but again, I just like to go out and win the game, right? I like to go out there, put the guys out there that are going to give me the best chance to win the game. And Julian Reese, at least from what I saw, Julian Reese looked a little out of position on that last play where Malik Hall scored the go-ahead bucket. Julian Reese, instead of being down toward the paint, he was up and out toward the three-point line. And I don't know if that was what was drawn up in the huddle. I don't know if that was just him being out of position. I don't know what it was. But I feel like the way that Malik Hall came in, right, that had Julian Reese come back. He basically had his back to the basket. And once Malik Hall got through, Julian Reese had to turn around and try to come get a block from behind. Had Julian Reese been down there to begin with, that probably doesn't happen. And, you can debate if, ands, or buts all day. But I feel like Julian Reese was a little out of position on that play. I would have liked to see, this may sound ridiculous because he hasn't been the best. He's not exactly a defensive specialist by any means. But, I would have almost liked to see, and again, this is hindsight is 2020. But I think Qudus Wahab, who's bigger, has more size, and sure, he is I believe he's a junior. He's more experienced, right? Again, is Qudus Wahab going to go make that play? Probably not, but who knows, right? I believe Xavier Green was in the game at that point, and he's a defensive specialist. He was the guy that actually was guarding Malik Hall, I believe, but I also would have liked to see Simon Wright in the game as well. And again, that may seem crazy, right? That may seem like absolutely mind-boggling, but Simon Wright is, in my opinion, I think he's one of the better defenders that Maryland has on the team. Simon Wright, you're not going to get anything out of offense from him, but that's, you don't need anything from him offensively at that point. You just need defense. And I think if you would have put, and even this, right, why not go ahead and put Julian Reese, Qudus Wahab, Xavier Green, and Simon Wright all out there? Put all four of those, right? Go big, just, because Julian Reese can move around, right? He can guard the three-point line, which is kind of where he was positioned last night. Xavier Green is mobile. Simon Wright is mobile. You can have Green, Wright, and whoever your point guard is guard the perimeter, guard the three-point line, and then have Julian Reese and Qudus Wahab down low. I don't know. I think there were a lot of different defensive lineups, and there were a lot of different ways that Maryland could have gone about this that would have, possibly been better, or maybe not, right? Maybe you put that lineup out there and they give up the basket anyway. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, but I think that there were definitely some decisions late in the game that you look at this Maryland team and you just know that they were inexperienced, right? You just know that they were a struggling team because they just, Michigan State, when it was clutch, right? The decisions, the good decisions that Michigan State made just kind of came organically, right? They just kind of just knew what they were doing. They just kind of did it, right? Where Maryland, it was when they were in that situation, it was like, okay, we need to stop. We need a timeout to figure out what we're doing here because we're not really sure. That's where you kind of see a team they don't, not only do they not have the confidence to go out there and just do it, but they, even for a team that has a lot of older guys on the team, they're relatively inexperienced to going out and finishing it, right? Because, you look at the guys like Eric Ayala and Dante Scott and Hakeem Hart. Under previous teams for those guys on Maryland, when it was late in the game and they needed a clutch stop, who was the guy to stop it? It was Anthony Cowan Jr. It was Jalen Smith. It was Bruno Fernando in previous years. It was Daryl Morcell in previous years, right? It was never Eric Ayala, Dante Scott, and Hakeem Hart. Albeit, yes, those guys are seniors and juniors, but it was never those guys that were called upon to make a stop late in the game or get a clutch bucket late in the game, right? It was always the other guys that they played with in previous years. So now it's like, okay, sure, they're juniors and seniors, but they've never been put in that position where coach says, hey, Dante Scott, I need you to go make this shot, or Eric Ayala, I need you to go do that. And Eric Ayala has been there more so than Dante Scott and Hakeem Hart, but it was never, hey Hakeem, hey Dante, I need you to go out there and D up, or I need you to go out there and I'm sure that they have said that before, but it was never absolutely crucial, right? It was always those other guys that they play with in previous years that really came up with the clutch basket or the clutch stop on defense. It was other guys he played with. It was never them. So for a team that, sure, they have older guys, sure, they have grad seniors, sure, they have seniors and juniors, But from the aspect of winning close games against good teams, that is what I mean. They're inexperienced in that aspect of basketball.